I want to be trying, right, to put out videos through my stream. So meaning to say, right now, whatever I discuss is gonna be put on my video, and so you guys will be part of the what do you call, the formulation of what comes out. All right. So what is Nero in his core? I'm still working on their skill trees, so I haven't done anything with them. What I needed to know skills on him, just another 25 raids to farm. Okay. Alright. So we will be discussing that right here. Okay guys, so I'm gonna be starting the thing right now. We're gonna be discussing about Nero. Alright, so first up, let me pull his character up. And okay, I'm gonna... Should I zoom in? Okay, these are some of the things that I wrote, and that I'll be talking about. And through this, right? You guys can let me know what you guys think, whether it makes sense, whether it's accurate, right? Everybody will be taking part in this, okay, guys? Happy jam. So I'm gonna start this with Nero's base stats. Okay, so he has the highest strength among all the three DMC characters, with 1003-ish, and he's weak to dark and strong to lightning, right? Pretty good status resistances, so mainly take note for curse and blind. Next, multi-elemental skills. So if you were to look at his skills, right, S1 is fire, S2 is thunder, S3 is earth, right? So he's actually a multi-elemental character in some sense. All his skills are different elements, and it doesn't show that he has any element for his ultimate. I'm not 100% sure about what element he has for his ultimate. I can check it out. If you guys know, can do let me know. Maybe it's elementalist, right? So that's that. Oh sorry, what? Okay. And okay, because of right. Let's move on with his auto attack. Okay, his auto attack is 2 hits, right? Skills with STR, and he needs to be slightly away from the enemy. Okay, so if you guys notice, right, his auto attack, he needs to be slightly away from his target. This is not a good stage. Fuck this stage. Fuck this stage. Wait, what? Okay, let's see the auto, right? Okay, you guys can see here, he needs to move backwards, guys. I don't know if you guys saw it. Is he moving? Okay, he doesn't seem to be moving backwards though. Alright, so no. So basically, that is that. So 2 hits STR based. So all his skills are all STR based. Okay, nothing related to int at all. So int does not affect his skill damage or auto attacks. All right, let's move on to S1. So S1 is 7 hits with 11 SCT, right? So it's a range combo attack and his main flinching skill. So as you can see here, I'm gonna S1. Okay, that was really rude of the other guy, right? His main flinching skill, because it's a knockup, and the opponent literally can't do anything but get hit, right? Get wrecked. Okay, so this is his main flinching skill, which he did not flinch over there, but it's fine. It's fine. So you guys can see, right? He hits up the enemy, and it's not a very big range of enemies. Wait, what is cursed? But when he knocks the enemy down and then he fires his shot, right, that itself is a bigger AoE. So it's like a smaller AoE in front of him when he knocks up, and then when he comes down he fires his gun, which deals a further range of AoE. So it's S1 fire. Yes it is. Yes it is. Alright, so fire, right? So that's what he does for his S1. And one thing to take note, right, it is very good. It's very good for CCing, right? However, when you see bigger units, like units that you cannot flinch, that is his weakness. Because when a unit is unflinchable, then this skill would not really work that well. Okay, so that's something to take note. This skill will not literally work in some sense. You can hit the enemy, but you wouldn't trigger his main thing, which is hitting enemies in the air, right? So wait, let's move on to S1. If you all can open up your textbooks on page 69, please. This is where you have to study for tomorrow's test. If there's no questions, I can move on. Right, that's correct. So does fire attack raise help or critical? Fire critical is for magic, JDC. You just need critical on him. But I'm going to talk about critical later on, so you know, it's going to be touched on later. So fire attack raise does help, but then again, only one skill. You will be only buffing one skill. So that's one of the things that I will also be touching on in the summary later. Alright, so but really good questions, JDC. Help is S1, yep. The accessory Driftstone and the skill from Rebel Dragons is good for Nero's S1, right? Yep. You know, knocking people in the air, and that's definitely it. However, the downside would be what I say, Painkiller, would be the issue whereby you face opponents that you cannot knock up. You know, like for example, in Arena, the first 15 seconds when people have Pirate Ship, they're unflinchable, right? So is it 15 seconds or 10 seconds? 10 seconds, I think. Okay, so they are unflinchable. So during that period of time, you know, it's weaker. And versus bosses, for example, those big bosses that you can't flinch, you can't knock up, that is where his main damage would not be, one of his damage buffs will not be present, which is Sky High and Air Hike, right? Those skills that allow him to do more damage with units that are airborne. So yeah, can we do last hit? I want to do double my points. So let me talk about S2 right now. Thunder attack. What the fuck? That is not a good example, guys. That is not a good example. Okay, S2. As you can see, he pulls the enemies near him and pushes them away. Okay, he has to be a certain distance and he has to be parallel, horizontally aligned with the enemy before he can do that. And if you can see, if the enemy is far away from him, well, this is a bad stage, guys. Stop cursing my freaking Does Thunder Attack Raise help his S2? Yes, it does, JDC. But if you can see, right, if you are trying to use Attack Raise on his Fire, Thunder, and Earth, right, for his S1, S2, S3, that itself is a lot of SC already, and it is not workable in some sense, right? You can't have everything on him, and that's one of the disadvantages that he have. But you can also say that it's an advantage in some sense, because he's more flexible to be brought into different stages. You can bring him to many stages just because he has different skills. Like he can focus on different enemies' weaknesses. Doesn't have to be locked onto one element in some sense. Okay, we'll talk about that after I get my. I'm still cursed, man. Fuck, how long is the freaking curse? Okay, guys. Fuck this stage. We want to talk about potentially builds for him and usable weapons for him after we fully analyze what he's like. Okay, so And by the way, S1 is, yeah, S1. Okay, S we're talking about S2 right now. 20 SCT with 7 hits also. So if I'm targeting, let's say, the queen, right? Okay, let's target this guy first. So he pulls over and pushes it away, right? You guys can see that. Pulls over and pushes the enemy away. All right. So he pushes the target. Let's see if he pushes. He pulls. Wait. Let's see if he pulls any other units together. I'm going to go for the last unit. This one. Pull. So he only pulls one unit. The unit that you target. Okay? The unit that you target. And if it's going to be the queen, right? Let's kill off some of the units first. Okay, let's try to target the queen. And what happens? Okay, the queen. Here we go. And he pulls himself towards the queen. Alright? So it works two different ways. One is if the enemy is flinchable or movable, you would pull the unit towards you. And then push and do a knockback to everybody in front of you. Right? And if it's a unit that's unflinchable or unpullable, you're gonna pull yourself towards that unit and then push everything back. Alright, that is S2. Thunder element, guys. Thunder element. It will pull it to them. Wait. Has a medium activation range. Okay, else acts as a gap closer. Alright, this is S2. Right? So I guess not. So S3. So moving on to S3. Right? Before that. Okay, so S3. Enemy can be anywhere on the map. It's 13 hits with 38 SCT. It's a really high cost. But the good thing I see about this is that it's a gap closer. And it drills. It's like a drill, right? It turns out to drill, and he goes across the map, right? Okay, I'm gonna kill off some of the units. Okay, he goes across the map, and deals damage. So the good thing about this is that anything that's caught in between him and his target will get hit. Okay, you guys gotta see one more time. And will get hit. Regardless of where the enemy is, they will get hit for the same 13 hits. Okay, if it doesn't matter if it's at the beginning where you cast a skill, or at the end, or where the enemy is very far or very near, you're gonna hit him for 13 hits regardless. Okay, so one last thing I'm gonna try is whether I'll fly through this guy if I were to use it beside. Okay, so basically he stops at his unit. Okay, he doesn't fly through the unit to the other side, right? So if he's directly beside the unit, he will just use it there and then, and he will just still be beside the unit that he used it on. So one way of using this skill is to get close to a very far away unit, right? In the process, you deal damage to everything across you. And I can see that this will be very, very useful if it's coupled with the stun arm that he has, because he does 13 hits, 26 hits with dual wheel. And if he's flying from his position across to the map to another position which a unit is at, and then across the point he hits another 2 to 3 other units, right? All of them will get hit for 26 hits, and all of them will have a chance to be stunned. Okay, so this is pretty interesting. 13 hits only when he's up close. Does the number reduce? Nope, that's not. It will be the same. Okay, so right, everybody Gucci on the S3. Everybody Gucci on S3. Let's talk about trade 2 first. Easier, right? Trade 2, auto haste. Right, he has auto haste by default, and equipping sword allows him to have additional 3k damage cap and 35% more physical damage. This, like what I typed here, what I was putting out here, is too good to pass. So in some sense, he is sword locked. Okay, you want to be at least wearing one sword on him, and of course, most of the time, he's a DPS, he's a CC'er, you want more hits on him, he's most likely going to be a dual wielder. So one slot is locked for a sword. Alright, so got that clear. And I'm gonna talk about trait 1. Okay, so trait 1 is, here's where he is unique. Okay, and he is very much like how he's like in DMC 5, the actual game, right? Whereby he has his arm, and each of his arm has a different ability. Alright, so he has a few different arms. Well, of course, in this game itself, we only have 4 different type of arms. He has more arms than that, but to not be too funky, he has 4 arms. Okay, so 4 arms, and there can only be 1 arm active at every point of time. Okay, so and the arm that is going to be active is going to be random. So this is something that I also want to test out later on in stream, of which arm actually is there any arms that will not appear at the very beginning of the fight. So as you can see here, we started the fight, and the arm that he has is Helter Skelter. Alright, so when you see here, it says chance for physical attacks to greatly lower defense and deal damage. So this is his active skill. Okay, so this is actually the Devil Breaker working. Alright, so when you see Helter Skelter DB, which is Devil Breaker, right? Chance for physical attack to greatly lower defense and deal damage. This is actually the active skill. Okay, so take note of that. This is the active skill, and it's Helter Skelter. I'm gonna retire and I'm gonna come back in again and see what random we get. And what happens also is that there's 4 arms, right? So he starts off with one of the arms, and when can you change to the other arms, right? I'm sorry, but you can't purposefully change his arms. It has to break. Okay, and how does it get broken is when he gets hit by the opponent. So it's rumored to be a 2% break rate. So there's a 2% chance, roughly around 2% chance, when he gets hit, right, that his arm will break, right? If it breaks, okay, he will swap to another arm. Okay, and that would mean that there will be 3 arms left, and when it breaks, it's going to mean there's going to be 2 arms left, and when it breaks again, it's going to be 1 arm left, and when it breaks again, there will be 0 arms. So there can be a situation that he have 0 arms, and that is probably if you're unlucky, or if you're playing him in a stage whereby there is many waves. So meaning the fight is very long, and there's many waves. There's a possibility that he will lose all his arms before he can finish the stage. Okay, so you can see here Tomboy. Okay, so we had Helter Skelter and we had Tomboy. Let's see if all of them can randomly proc all of them. Okay, right, so the next arm that he has, Buster Arm. So basically, sort of, are we lucky, or is it just it's always going to be this sort of different arm every time that we start? So we had Buster Arm, we just don't have Overture. Okay, so if I start now and then he has Overture, right, then it seems like it goes around the same path. Tomboy, okay, never mind. So Tomboy is the one that came out, right? Alright, so first up is what skills he have. No basic stats up like the rest of the DMC units. Okay, so I think what I feel about this is that I think it's okay, because they're actually moving towards Fighting Spirit, which is an upgrade of base stat increase. So this has base stat increase plus HP increase. So I'm pretty sure it's like a innate power creep. Okay, so in the future, I'm guessing that we are most likely gonna start seeing more and more units with no attack ups, or rather stat boost, rather than it's gonna be moving towards things like this, right? Fighting spirits and whatnot. So yeah, so that's one finding. And he has crit, okay, from comparatively to the other two units. This one has crit. Nero has crit. A lot of people like crit, right? And I mixed feelings about crit, but I generally like it because it really boosts the damage potential for of units. So he has crit and has a lot of it. What do I mean? Crit 2 and crit 3, right? And advance in vitals. Okay, so crit damage bonus up, right? So what he's lacking is actually crit 1 and aim vitals. So crit 1 is 2 SC, aim vitals is 4 SC, right? In all is 6 SC. So with 6 SC plus another Ardor, right? If you are using Ardor, which is the full HP plus 10% more crit, that is 10 SC. So with 10 SC, you more or less can give him, and also he has Proud Force, don't forget. So all in all, he just needs 10 SC to have a full set of crit stuff. He even has auto crit. Okay, so basically he has almost everything with crit. He only needs another 10 SC to sort of max out his crit from skills. Alright, so that is first thing. Nero is a unit that focuses sort of like knockups and sort of like flinching enemies in some sense. And he has a lot of damage and a lot of bonuses that comes from knocking up airborne units and dealing damage to them while they are airborne. Okay, so you can see Sky High 2. Okay, damage to airborne units plus 30%. He has Air Hike, damage plus 30% and crit rate plus 10% against airborne enemies. So when he's hitting, most of the time units are going to be airborne when he's going to hit the enemies up into the air anyways. So other than the first hit, I don't think it works. But after that, any other hits that comes will have this bonus. So 30 plus 30 is like 60%, and then plus another 10% more additional crit rate, which is gonna take his crit rate to 50%. You know, just in his base form, right? You're gonna get 50% if you add Ardor in. Like what I wrote there, good for most PvE situations except bosses, and PvP wise, decent for CC purposes. How do you know if it's using Tomboy versus another DB? So pause and check buff. I think the only way at the moment. Not really, Simon. You can actually see it from his buffs on his portrait when you are actually playing. But then again, if you have too many active buffs, it might get overridden, so you can't see it. You have to pause and go to the menu. So they should have made it similar to stances. Agreed. Have an icon associated with it. Yep. I do agree. He should have another separate icon so that it will appear. Yep. So I can show you guys later. Alright, so next we have dual wheel. So he has innately dual wheel. This technically, in some sense, makes it so that you most likely want to use dual wheel on him, right? Very niche situation whereby you will not use dual wheel on him. So having a 14 SC save, this is pretty big. So at this point, right, you can see that his SC saves is actually quite strong, and both machine boosts. Okay, he has machine boost and machine high boost, which is a very crazy SC save already, right? So 4 plus 9, right? So machine boost and machine high boost. So what does this mean, right? Earlier we said about him being sword locked. Okay, he has a damage cap and he has damage increase on using sword, and now he has machine boost. Okay, so easily it can relate to you have to use a machine and a sword on him. Alright, so it sort of clears things up a little bit for us. Basically just use one machine and one sword, then you get the maximum boost for him. And what do you get for machine boost? It's actually defense negation and physical attack damage up. So 7% more attack power and 5% less defense from the opponent. And when you have high machine boost, high boost is 20% attack power and 10% defense reduction. So ignore 10% defense, I mean. So when you add these two together, it's 15% defense ignore and 27% damage boost. So you would technically want to put a machine on him. Yeah, okay. So definitely include that in the video, the different icons for DBs. Yep. So now sword high. Yep. Can you only attach machine to the first slot? Looks like it. No, it doesn't matter which slot you equip it to. You just equip it to anywhere, and you get both boosts. All right. So 0 kills. Yeah, shouting out to your mom. All right, I'm gonna help you with that. 0 kills. Hi, mom, and I'm on YouTube. All right. Welcome to the stream, 0 kills, and I hope you're having a great day so far. You will want to put sword high boost on him also, so that you get all the boosts for sword and machine boost on your Nero. So just by equipping a sword and a machine, and also equipping sword high boost, you will be getting all the boosts that you can get for equipping for these weapons. So giant killing, damage to boss, you know, quick trigger, all pretty straightforward stuff. Not gonna touch that. So blast speed has higher movement speed, right? So I guess I'm done. Okay, so we can move on, right? So him being a multi-element unit, okay, most of the time we see dual element, but it's not so frequent that we will see a triple element unit. So for him, S1, S2, S3 all has different elements, something like a Popoi kind of feel to it in some sense. Being very versatile in terms of what he can provide, right? However, of course, he's not focused onto one element, so there is that con whereby you can't really focus elemental damage on him. So by putting a fire elemental race, fire elemental race 2, for example, would only be buffing one of his damage, one of this skill, which is, in my opinion, is not that effective, is not that efficient. It might be better used somewhere else, right? But if you are focusing on a particular boss, it can work, right? If let's say you know that this boss is weak to fire, okay, and you want to be bringing him in for reasons other than his damage, right? But you want to buff up his damage to a big amount, so you can focus on your fire damage. You can still do that, right? But then again, if you want to compare having him or having a Dante for the fire boss, well, that is something that is for another discussion. All right. So being versatile, having pros and cons for that. Okay, next I'm going to be moving on to his arms. Okay, this is the topic that is the most interesting for him, and it's the most confusing for me in some sense. Okay, I do agree with what Simon mentioned earlier, that probably it would be better if his arms are being stated somewhere, that which arm is active, but they do have that in screen actually. So we're gonna move on to the arms. Okay, so one thing that the arms that I discover is that reviving him or moving across waves do not restock his arms. Okay, once he's in a stage and his arms break, right, moving to the next wave does not restock the arm, right? The arm is gone for the rest of the stage. All right, and if he dies and he gets revived, right, he doesn't get all his arms back. Okay, only the last arm that was with him that did not break. All right. By the way, guys, if I say anything that is inaccurate, do sound me out. All right. And second thing is that his passives stay, meaning if you can see the skill itself, for example, Overture, physical damage plus 20%. So this in the sense that I'm talking about is his passive. So this physical damage plus 20% will always stay, regardless of whether the arm breaks or the arms is gone. If he has no more arms, this is still there. Alright, so the physical damage plus 20% is always gonna be there. Alright, only this part, when active Devil Breaker, right? Chance for skill attacks to deal extra thunder damage and stun, right? This one is only when it's active. Okay, are we clear on that, guys? Any questions or anything that I missed, do let me know. And by the way, it's 2 something. I haven't even done my arena. Okay, I'm gonna do my arena while we have this discussion, right, guys? Just let me know what did I miss. Okay, so first arm. Okay, I'm just gonna show all the arms. Okay, as you can see here, right, Simon, you can see here, wait, on the screen here, beside his portrait, right, you see his portrait? Beside his portrait, okay, one of his arms broke. You saw that, guys? Do you see the arms break? That icon disappeared. So this is Arms Buster, you know, 8747 HP. On top of his HP is Arms Buster. So that is the icon for his arm. So it is literally right there, right? If it breaks, it will show that it disappears and the next arm will appear. Alright, so this is how his arms, the icons actually work. Okay, if you can't really see it because you have too many buffs, then you can go into this phase. But the arms icon is different for each arm. Yes, it is. So you can see here, the arm is this icon. Later on, if you see a different arm, it will be a different color. Okay, so if not, you can actually come to this page to check out what arm he has. So if you can see, this arm itself has a different effect. So that is his first trait in the works. So I'm gonna let you guys focus on the notepad. Okay, so what it means here is the notepad here is talking about his passive skills. Okay, so Overture, which is one of his arms, Helter Skelter, Tomboy, Buster Arm. Right, these are the 4 arms that he has, and each arm has a passive. So this passive, like I mentioned earlier, will stay regardless of whether it's active, not active, broken, or not broken. Okay, whatever the case, it is always gonna be there. Take into consideration of this. So he's perpetually gonna have physical damage plus 20%, crit damage plus 30%, which is really insane because like other units probably wouldn't be able to have things like this. So his physical damage increase, crit damage increase, special and physical damage plus 3000 damage cap. Alright, damage cap plus 3000. Alright, so that takes his damage cap to 6000. Okay, he has a 6000 damage cap, which is the highest out of the lot of all the 3 DMC units. So that is going to be his passive. And Buster Arm, right, the last one, which is attack special crit chance. So it allows his ultimate to have a chance to crit. Okay, I think that there's not many units that I don't think there's any units that can crit on ultimates, but he's the only unit that can crit on ultimates, I think. If I'm wrong, do let me know. So if a few have free friend units, at me please. Alright, so help out Painkiller. And by the way, Painkiller, are you in my Discord? I can't really remember, right? Do join my Discord, and you know, like, get us in Discord for people that are not even on stream. They will be able to help you out also. So yeah, and it increases the special damage by 80%. So plus, if you have El Javana on this character, right, or Nero, right, it will buff his attack special to be 200% additional damage, which is pretty insane. Not to mention that it also can crit, right? Maybe you can't hit that damage by itself, but once you crit, you can definitely hit the damage, right? So potentially making some big plays for his special specifically. So his ultimate is actually on one enemy. So it's a powerful attack. However, it's not an AoE. So do take into consideration, yes, he can be doing a very big damage on bosses. So basically, if you focus on his ultimate, it's gonna be doing very decent damage on bosses if you were to focus on his ultimate, right? That could be one thing or one way that you can build him. Maybe that makes up for him not being able to knock up bosses, right? This actually makes up for it. I feel that potentially it could mean that, right? You can actually put ultimate boost on him to focus on his ultimate doing huge damage to the boss for the fight itself. So I can definitely see one way of building him specifically for bosses in that sense. Alright, so this is gonna be a passive, guys, and this will always be there. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the actives. Okay, so if you see Overture's active, okay, Overture's active is when using skills, 25% to 20 to 25% proc rate, okay, for the additional damage. So we can see, I'm gonna show you guys the skill. So this is the skill Overture. Alright, so what it does is chance for skill attacks to deal extra thunder damage and stun. So if I break this, if I break it down for you guys, it means that every skill hit, okay, every skill hit will have a chance to deal an additional thunder damage and stun chance. Okay, so when I reiterate this, right, every hit when he's using skill, okay, will have a 20% to 25% proc rate for 45 to 50% damage, which is half damage for that particular hit, right? To deal the additional hit damage, and has a 1 to 3% stun rate, okay, per hit. Okay, this should be rates for per hit of skill. Alright, so mean to say, if it's S1 has 7 hits, if your dual wield has 14 hits, so every one of these 14 hits, there is a 20 to 25% chance each hit, right, to have to deal an additional 45 to 50% damage, a thunder damage, okay, and also a 1 to 3% chance to stun. Alright, does that make sense? Is that clear? And so 7 hits, which is 14 hits with dual wield, and S3 is 13 hits, which is 26 hits with dual wield. Okay, so you have 14, 14, 26. Alright, so there's a pretty decent chance to stun, I would say. Alright, when he has Overture on. So this has to be active. Okay, the arm has to be active before this can actually work. Alright, so it means that in some sense, alright, 20 to 25%, let's take it at 25%, right? Let's just hypothetically use it on his S3. So 26 hits, 20 to 25%, let's say 20%, let's just use it as 20%. 20% of 13 hits is actually how many? 3 hits. Can we say 3? So 3 hits out of the 13 hits would actually get a 40 to 45% damage on that hit itself. So it's additional 3 more hits. So guys, it's also increasing of your hits. Okay, so mean to say, when it procs 3 times, right, what it means is that if you dual wield and if you do 13 hits, you are single wielding, and you have 3 hits, your total hits will be 16. Okay, it will be 16 hits. You will show on the screen 16 hits. If you dual wield and do 26 hits, and it does additional 6 hits, right, it will be 32 hits. Alright, I hope that that's clear. So this itself is an additional hit, and it's an additional hit off every single hit of the skill. Okay, I hope I'm not confusing you guys. Helter Skelter. Alright, you can see crit damage plus 30% permanently there. So rumored to be a 25% proc rate, might be similar to piercing skill. So piercing is actually 25% chance for his hits, physical attacks, to reduce opponent's defense by 50%, to ignore 50% of enemy defense. Okay, potentially that is what I'm guessing it is, right? Because it has the same wordings, and using Lake's spreadsheet for piercing itself, that is the number that I get. Okay, so don't really quote me on that, but this is something that I think is that's the numbers that it is for this particular arm. And it also has a 10% crit rate. So if you can see here, Helter Skelter, right? When physical attacking, chance for physical attacks to greatly lower defense and deal damage, right? And also crit rate plus 10%. So if you have this additional 10% plus air hike plus ardor plus auto crit plus his base crit plus if you add in crit 2, all the crits are up, it'll probably be around 60% crit chance, you know, which is pretty high if you hit the opponent airborne also. So it's actually a pretty high. He's like a crit machine to some sense. Okay, really high crit. Provided of course if you have this arm on, which will bring the crit numbers to even a more insane number. Which is gonna be Tomboy. Like I mentioned, this is the passive, and what is his active is skill damage plus 40% and also has a plus 50% break damage. Okay, so Tomboy, right? So skill damage plus 40%, break damage plus 50%. So I'm literally typing whatever that it means there. So making his skills really powerful, dealing a lot of damage during that point, and of course having additional break damage would mean that he would do really well in this phase when he's fighting a boss. So you will really want this particular skill to be active when he's actually on the boss stage and not earlier, because it might just be broken before reaching the boss, right? So RNG then again. So next we have Buster Arm. Okay, so Buster Arm special and chance to crit, 80% special damage. So when active, right, HP cap plus 5000 damage. Okay, when active, so more damage. Buff, he's tankier in some sense, and STR plus defense plus 50%. So he's much tankier in much more sense right now. So 50% to STR, that is quite a decent amount, right? If he has 2k, it adds another 1k. If he has 3k, it adds another 1.5k, making it 4.5k STR. That is pretty decent, right? So for this Buster Arm, so basically straightforward as that. 5000 damage cap plus 50%. So all in all, right, you can see that all the arms sort of add some form of damage or some utility to him, but most of the time it's making him deal more damage most of the time. But it allows him to have some form of randomness and some form of utility in some ways. Some people would say that they can possibly, what do you call, make RNG not RNG. And how they do that is that if let's say they are fighting a boss wave, let's say they are fighting a one stage wave, right? It's a boss fight, it's a very strong boss. They will just, don't tell Idis this, they will just restart the game until they get the right arm on their Nero before they start the fight. Does that make sense? So in some ways it's you know, cleverly using how the game works to in their advantage, maybe. Can I even put this on YouTube, guys? So we are going to do the summary together. So it's going to be about strengths and weaknesses. So let's start off with basically what is some of the advantage of him, right? I would say he has a elemental variety. Okay, and being in that situation, as I mentioned before, makes him versatile in different situations, possibly usable in different circumstances, and in some ways unique compared to elemental locked units, which you will probably to use them in stages that are strong against their element. You are sort of forced to use the only item that we have, Trishula, to potentially, you know, be even useful in those stages. However, you can always use Nero, even if it's, you know, one particular skill being weak to the opponent, but the other skills might be strong against the opponent, or not as weak per se, right? So elemental variety is sort of a thing about him, and there is definitely pros and cons to that. It depends on how you want to maximize that. Alright, so I'm pretty sure you guys have a way of doing that also. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing, okay, I will put that interesting skill 2 first. Right, he has an interesting skill 2 which allows him to either pull the opponent to him or travel to the enemy, right, in some sense. And it opens up some, you know, situations whereby it would make sense. Like you want to target a specific unit and you want to pull it closer to the rest of the units, for example, so that you can sort of deal damage to everyone at the same time, right? It's a dispositioning skill, and I think at this point of time there's not many dispositioning skills. There are some that I can remember, like Medine's is it S2, right? There are some skills that can disposition enemies, and I feel that dispositioning can be made to work, right? It's not just hitting the enemy and making them fly away, but at a point it also can sort of force units to be at a certain spot. And S3, like what do you call Zero Q was saying, right? S3, really good animation, and you know, it travels and damages everything in between. So this is something that is in my memory. There isn't so many skills that is like that sort of pierces, right? So if you target an enemy that's like at the very end of the stage, at the very end of the map, right, and in between there's a few units, you're gonna plow through all of them. So not many skills are like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. So this also acts as a gap closer. So S3 is gap closer. S2 in some sense is also like a, no, it can't be called a gap closer because it pushes back the enemy. Yeah, so it's not really a gap closer. Okay. Anything else but expensive. So there's not many ways for him to SCT recover. His SCT recover is only from his auto haste, which he already have in his trait, right? So he doesn't have many ways to get SCT, right? So his SCT recovery is actually, I wouldn't say a problem, but it's not buffed in any ways. And if you can notice, 11 SCT, 20 SCT, and 38 SCT is pretty high. 11 and 20 seems pretty okay, but for 38 seems like pretty high to me. And I don't see him having any much skills that allow SCT recovery. You know what I'm saying? yeah, probably, right? Like, S3 is really expensive, but you know, I guess that cannot be too OP. So in some ways, right, Nero is not a skill spammer because I don't really see him able to regen too quickly his skills. So in some sense, his skills will probably, I mean, it does really good crowd control, and it does possibly pretty good damage, but it's probably gonna cost a lot of SCT to really make him, you know, able to stun lock enemies in some sense using his skills. So that could be a thing. So what else is there is that he has really good buffs, right? He has really good buffs, right? So particularly what buffs he have buffs from his arms, right? Really good buffs from his arms. Really decent damage cap increase, 6,000, right? He has his attack is buffed, his his special is buffed, his physical damage is buffed, his crit damage is buffed. So he has almost all of the crits, as I mentioned earlier. So in some ways, a lot of things is already sort of built on him. You know, he has all the machine and sword boosts. Most of the, he doesn't have so high boost. So like you can see that a lot of things is already, you know, just a few things that's missing that will potentially bring him up to complete in those areas, right? So pretty more straightforward to build in some sense, and still definitely not a weak character, right? Not a weak character at all. Okay, so that's about the buffs. Maybe we can talk about what is the total physical damage buff that he gets. How about that? Okay, physical, let's talk about damage buff. As you can see, right, he does not have any elemental buff, elemental damage buff. Okay, no fire attack raise, no nothing, right? You guys can see he's purely getting physical damage buff. Okay, so that's 35 from his trait. Here we have from his arm 20. So damage buff, he has 35 plus 20, which is 55, and then at another 92% damage buff, which is pretty decent. I wouldn't say that's a lot, but then again, if you add in 60 from airborne, it is getting there. It's getting to be pretty decent damage buff. So this has to of course put into perspective, right, that if he can get the enemy airborne, that's where he will be able to shine better with his damage. Okay, so meaning to say, you know, losing out 60% is no joke, I would say. And of course, he does not only depend on this, basically. Of course, it is good to have, right? But he is also depending on high crit. So he has very high chance of critting. This is his crit damage, which is pretty decent. You can further increase on that. But the chances of critting is also very high. Innately, he has very high crit. So he is like a really all-round character, which I'm gonna go on to the weakness. His nose is that one, I can definitely add that one. Okay. That is definitely one of the biggest weakness, right? How could I not see that? Wow, yeah, I mean, totally forgot about that. Okay, another weakness will be no elemental focus, which means that it's going to be difficult to further buff. Difficult to further buff damage. Okay, I guess you guys will know what I'm typing. So, right. So, one of the weakness I see that he possibly, I mean, you can see that way, is that he has no elemental focus. So you can't really buff his element, buff that much of his elemental. Of course, you can say that you can still buff his elemental. Let's say you want to buff fire, you can just straight up buff fire, and then but having only one skill that effectively make uses of that elemental buff is kind of a waste in some sense. But of course, if you're fighting a boss that is specifically weak to that element, then it might make sense. Okay, it might make sense. So this is not exactly like a full-blown weakness kind of thing, but it's like it does put it out there, right? That elemental focus is not going to be a thing about him. Yeah, but more like he's able to be brought into more different content than other characters in that sense. And one of the glaring things that I see is the RNG nature of his arms. Alright, so why is this a weakness? I think that it's gonna be very difficult to specifically want a certain arm for him to build around a certain arm for the content that you are building your characters, you're bringing your characters into, whereby most of the time in Last Cloudia, most of the time we do have control, right? Like we go in tower, we can control what skills to put on our units, we can swap the skills out, we can make changes, and when we go in the fight itself, we sort of maximize our control of our units to deal with the content that we are at, right? But this thing itself sort of changes everything in some sense, right? That it not only changes your gameplay, right? Like when you're playing and then you have a certain arm, and then you must play according to that arm. That will help you better in some sense if you are, if you're struggling with the content. Actually, if you're not struggling with content, I don't see a problem. But if you are not, then you want a specific arm for a specific fight, that will be difficult, right? So on top of the RNG nature of the opponent's AI, which is I know a lot of people are talking about the AI of the enemy, right? So of course, and also AI of your own units, right? So on top of those RNG factors, there's now an additional RNG factor that you need to worry about. So that is something that, although I like it because it fits the story in DMC5, right? DMC5 Nero is like that, right? So I totally get that, and I'm totally fine with that. But it's just this itself, in terms of the fight here, will bring on this RNG nature of his arms, and from what I can see, it's gonna be hard to sort of build around, So yeah, that's that. So another weakness I can see is being sword and machine locked. Okay, so I wouldn't say that it's a pure weakness, but in some sense, of course, it limits the flexibility of what you can put on your unit. But in a sense, it's a good thing. I can possibly put this in both parts, and I probably should put this in both parts, right? That although, you know, like you are most likely going to be using a sword and a machine on him, and the reason is because there's just so much advantage to use it on him, right? You get a lot of boost from using sword, from his passive, and also from his skills, right? Not skills, from his innate skills, which is sword boost, okay, which is free on his tree. And if you use machines, you're gonna get machine boost and machine high boost, which is also free, right? And you know that he can do a wheel, so you want both, right? So this itself is sort of like, unless there's a very good reason why you're not using a sword or a machine, unless it's a very good reason, but somehow the buffs just, in my opinion, it outweighs any other combinations, in my opinion. Let me know in the comment section down below what do you guys feel. So I would say that he has weak SET recovery. Can I say that he has weak SET recovery? Is only having auto haste actually weak SET recovery? I mean, most units right now have a couple of ways of SET recovery, right? Maybe I can put it semi-weak SET recovery. Right? Coupled with high S3 cost. SET is actually pretty high, right? My impression is pretty high. Usually it's around 30-ish. 30, 20 plus, 30. Low 30s basically. Yeah. But overall, he's a strong character. Overall. So I guess shouldn't feel too bad if we didn't get the arm that we want. Maybe. Right? So guys, any last things? If not, that concludes everything that we're going to talk about for Nero. And thank you guys for all participating in this sort of community discussion, right? I hope that, you know, if you don't know certain things about Nero, I did provide those information, and you know, by being here and contributing also in what you know about Nero, this is something that I really appreciate, and I will be wanting to try, you know, doing videos like that, or rather doing streams like that in the future. All right, so we can talk about other things now, guys. We can talk about other things, and I can start playing music again. Wait. I know brain. What? Oh, unknown brain. Fuck, I thought he said that he doesn't have a brain. Alright, thank you everyone, and I will see you guys next time. This is Zaz here, and I'm signing out.